Chair Dunlap, I'm looking forward to our discussions because it's going to give people an opportunity to learn more about the Board of County Commissioners and also all the work the county does. So I want to dive in and start asking questions today about you. We're going to learn about you, and then we'll also talk a little bit about Meck Pre-K. So you started your career in public service as a police officer with Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department for 27 years. So let's talk about that role and why it was so important to you.
In fact, I'll never forget, I was walking from Cavalier Skating Ring over in Dilworth. I lived in Wilmore. Someone had been assaulted. There were a group of us walking home from the skating rink. Police officers stopped us and asked us our names and where we were going, and because I spoke up, he had some harsh things to say. And it was that moment that made me realize that, there are people who can do this job and do it right. And so for me, it was a calling. I was one of those people who thought I could do a better job, and that's what I pursued.
When you were a police officer, one of the roles that you had was as a school resource officer. Talk about being in schools as a police officer. Why is that role so important?
Being a school resource officer, being a DARE officer for 13 years, I was in the schools for over 20 years of the 27-year career working with young people. I had the opportunity to go into classrooms and talk about the role of law enforcement, talk about law. I would talk to students about their rights. I would simply be there as a counselor to answer questions and to respond to issues that other students had. One of the things I would never allow a school administrator to do was to put me in an adversarial position between me and the student. You're not going to use me to bully students. And so they used to call me Officer Friendly. I would listen to what they had to say, irrespective of what the administration had to say. I had the opportunity to interact with parents a lot of time, and just to be a friend.
You yourself decided to go back to school and get your master's in public administration. So you were working and being a student full time. Why did you want to get your master's?
For selfish reasons. Well, I didn't really want to get a master's. What happened was, when I finished high school, I had no desire to continue my education. After a stint in the military, I came out and I worked in nonprofit. When I became a police officer, I realized that there was no advancement for people who had a high school education. They would hire you, but you couldn't advance. And so realizing that the police department would pay for my education, realizing that my GI Bill would pay for my education, I went to school just to get an associate degree so that I could get some advancement. That one associate's degree turned into 2 associate's degrees. Then I had the confidence to believe that I really could get a 4-year degree. And so I went out to UNC Charlotte. I was accepted, and I got a degree in criminal justice. It was near the end of my career that I wanted to do something for me. And so I was in, as an elected official, there were a lot of things that I still didn't understand and didn't know about politics and about government. And I thought that the master's degree would give me the opportunity to better understand how government works in our community. And so I got accepted, and right before my retirement, I obtained my master's degree.
What was the spark that you said, I want to run for elected office? Was that before you got your master's?
Well, actually, the first elected position that I ran for was that of sheriff of Mecklenburg County.
Oh, I didn't know.
I was unsuccessful. One of the things I learned about politics and running for office is you kind of have to strike while the iron's hot. You had name recognition. People knew who I was. I was a single parent, and my son came home with an assignment, and it required me taking him to the public library. And of course, there were a lot of questions in my mind. Why don't they have the books in the school? And they don't have them. So then I realized that I should fight to ensure that students had the resources that they need in school. I had been PTA president. I'd been the fingerprint chairperson for the Mecklenburg County PTA. So that was what really got me involved in deciding to run for school board.
So how did you make the transition from being on the school board to saying, I'm going to run for county commission?
I can recall year after year saying to the county commission, we need money for this, we need money for that. I wanted to run for county commission, but I also liked my county commissioner. And it just so happened that my county commissioner passed away, and they were looking for a replacement. And I offered myself, went through a process, and was ultimately appointed to the county commission. And then, of course, the next year I had to run for the seat. And so I ran in the next election and have been elected since that time.
So what would you say have been some of your successes in these 3 terms so far?
Well, I won't say that they're necessarily successes as chair, but I think being chair helps you elevate some of the causes that you advocate for. I recall having run across several people who talked about their challenges being business owners. And so it was at that time that I proposed that the county establish a revolving fund that would make loans to small business people. As a result of that, they would generate a little bit of interest on those loans, grow the fund so that it would make more loans available to others who were in a similar situation. The county manager, Harry Jones at that time, proposed that as a part of his budget. It lost in a 5-4 vote. Oh. But it took 10 years. And 10 years later, we were able to put forth $2.7 million in a fund that allowed small business owners to apply when they have difficulty getting the typical business loan so that they can start businesses. And I had this group of 21 neighborhood organizations who said, look, we've been here for 21 years and we can't get a part completed. So I made that case on behalf of those 21 neighborhoods to the Board of County Commissioners, who agreed, and they agreed with me. And so the first ever regional recreation center will open up after the pandemic is over. It's already fully completed, fully furnished, everything. It's a beautiful facility. Right. We'll open up on Eastway Drive. Well,
so throughout your career, education has sort of been this thread throughout. And now the county has Meck Pre-K, which is a wonderful program. What do you hope it will do for the county in the long term? Because you're talking about some of these programs that it took you 10 years for the loan program.
Absolutely.
You know, this is a long game program as well. We're starting with little kids, but what's the hope for the whole county?
Well, when you understand how children learn, and when you look at what is it that we can do to give them a head start. Hundreds of kids in Charlotte who need a leg up. I'm excited that Mecklenburg County continues to see the need to support the pre-K program here in Mecklenburg County, because hopefully we will end the school to prison pipeline. If we can change that trajectory, then we can change what happens at the end of that cycle.
And Meck Pre-K has registration right now, so if anybody has a 4-year-old, they can go to meckprek.org.
Yes.
I want to say thank you so much for your time today and having this discussion. I know that the board has important work that you're doing on a weekly basis and you have regular meetings. So what's coming up next week, or what are things that you think people should listen in?
Well, a lot of people don't realize that the budget cycle for Mecklenburg County actually takes about 6 months. So we're in a process now of hearing from all of our stakeholders, our partners, the various advisory committees, the community at large about what's important to Mecklenburg County and where we ought to spend our resources. It's been said that if you look at where you spend your money, you will know what a community values. So I would encourage people that it's not too late to get involved in the budget process.
Well, thank you so much for this discussion.
Thank you, and I appreciate it.